Hey guys, welcome to the Powerful Man Show, where we help married businessmen save their marriages without having to talk about it, get unstuck, and gain clarity in their lives. As I like to say, life is too short for average. I'm your host, Doug Holt, with my co host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. Now let's get this started. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Powerful Man Show. Great to have you here. Tim, great to have you here too, my friend.
Yeah, likewise. I missed you last week.
Yeah, I miss being here, but being at the Alpha Reset, leading 9 men with the other coaches and staff, those are experiences that you just can't replace anywhere else.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. Sounded like an incredible one as well.
It was just these guys are absolutely amazing. I can tell you stories and stories, and you know how it is. So for those that aren't aware that you maybe are new to this show, the Alpha Reset is a live event that we put on. And it's not hyperbole. You can see the testimonials, but guys will say it is the most transformational experience they've ever been, including marrying their wife, including having kids, which are huge accolades. One of the guys there, Tim, is an older gentleman, won't mention his name, but his wife passed recently, right? So his wife passed away, which also, guys, a reminder, you never know how much time you really have. However, he would describe it, I'm going to paraphrase, that his marriage was horrible. I mean, absolutely horrible. He and his wife were disconnected. It was a sexless marriage for over 20 years, to give you an idea. And he found the Powerful Man. He joined the Activation Method, which is our flagship coaching program on how to save your marriage without talking about it. He decided to join it and didn't know his wife was dying, by the way, right? And he knew his wife had a serious medical condition, so she wasn't well. And for 6 months, he was able to reconcile his marriage and provide his wife with the marriage of her dreams, according to her, that she had always wanted. Now, they'd been married, I think, for 30 years or so, have kids together. Kids are growing up, they're adults. And she passed. And when she passed, she told him, she told their kids how amazing it was to have him show up, as the man that she has always wanted. So she was able to live her last remaining months on this earth very happy and satisfied to have him show up. And it was really neat at the Alpha Reset. His daughter shared that not only had it forever changed his life going through the program, but it had forever changed hers. And she thanked him by saying, Dad, the fact that you joined the Powerful Man and did the Activation Method was the greatest gift you could ever give to me, because Mom, before she died, had said how amazing it is to have you show up in this way. And so this is just it's just one guy out of 9. The stories are endless, of course, as you know, Tim, because you've done these. But these are real men. These are real men, just like you, the listeners, that are going through this experience. The Alpha Reset, we hold it tight. It's very tight-lipped on what happens there, because it is an experience. It's a very intense experience, and the sense of transformation that occurs there. And one of the things is the guys will always say, just go, just go. And all 9 of these guys walked away forever transformed. They're going to be better husbands, better fathers. Some of the men are going through a divorce, right? Some of the men are still married. One is a widower, as I said. But all of them are going to go back to their communities and their families better men, and more importantly, more fulfilled for themselves.
Yeah, it warms my heart in a major, major way. It's why we do what we do. It's incredible. Like you said, Doug, there's a lot of testimonials out there. You can always head over to thepowerfulman.com/results. You'll see a lot of them on there. There's other ones that released. Yeah, it's a true gift to be in that experience with those men as they go through it. It's incredible. I always say, for some reason, TPM self-imploded tomorrow, and never got to do this work again, I'd die an incredibly happy man from the things we've got to experience with the men over the years in the Alpha Reset and the Activation Method. It's just, yeah, words just do not come close.
I couldn't agree more. So that's why I was out last week, and I missed you as well. And now here we are. So Tim, I got a sick kid. So guys, I'm a real dad, a real husband. I do have a kid who's got a fever. My wife is taking my daughter to an ENT just to check out her ears. You know what's weird, man, is when kids are as young as my daughter, there's nothing they can do when they have fluid in their ears. No procedures, nothing. So we are getting to a specialist just to see. So I do have a son watching cartoons, the digital babysitter. So if we do hear noise in the background, I apologize, guys. It's funny. I had a meeting before this, Tim, with a guy in the UK, and I told him the same thing, and he said, he's like, man, my son's sick too, so he might come in as well. And we just commiserated on being dads who work from home, how much we get to enjoy this lifestyle because I get to see and really soak in all of these nuances that I would miss if I was in an office. But at the same time, my little guy might need me. So listeners, I apologize if you do see a little guy yelling and screaming. Right now, he's knocking on my door just to let me know if the cartoon stops. Netflix does that for certain shows. Boba is on the playlist. But Tim, yesterday I held office hours. Again, for the guys that don't know, when you join the activation method, you'll get individual coaching as well as group coaching. When I say individual coaching, your coach is going to meet with you to talk about how to get you orientated. And then you'll be put into a select group, small group of about 8 to 9 guys, roughly. And in that group, you'll get coaching. And then you also have what are called office hours, where Tim or myself or Arthur might jump in, or another coach. And you get to ask any questions. And men from other groups can come in. It's a chance for guys to meet each other, but also ask some deep questions. So I got a follow-up question from yesterday's talk, Tim. And I thought I'd throw that on the table and we could do some live coaching here. How do you feel?
I feel great. Let's do it.
All right, awesome. This gentleman's name is Dan, and I'm going to paraphrase some of the stuff as I read through it. But he says, Doug, thanks for today. You're a much better coach than Tim. It was good to hear how engaged you are with the guys and stayed interested and show interest in all the conversations. I'm sure it's hard because I'm sure you generally are interested, but I comment on this because I can't seem to show that level of interest to my wife, even though I generally am. I have posted this question before, but I'd like to get your answers. My wife asked for divorce for the first time in January without actually contacting a lawyer. So eventually I realized it was a request for a change. Smart man, right? He's already seeing that. Much like you were talking to one of the guys, she wants a divorce from Dan 1.0. Don't blame her. That guy was an asshole. Her request admittedly elicited a reaction from me, but eventually what I considered as a response. The problem is that she is so uninterested right now that I really don't think she notices. I go out on my nights away. She doesn't ask what I do. I have completely changed my lifestyle. She doesn't seem to care. She has a guy that she is interested in. There we go. That she does all of these things with. She says it's not physical, but refuses to stop when I say the relationship makes me feel uncomfortable. She'd negatively affect the safety of our relationship. She wants to stay together because she can't afford to be apart. And this guy isn't actually offering a real relationship or her an actual way out for her. I'm paraphrasing because some of this is mistyped. He is offering escape, so I don't really know what to do. I have a really hard time both being engaged and indifferent, especially when she's around. If she's left to pursue this guy, I'll be fine with it. I'd move on. But the way that she is going with getting her bucket filled by him and then constantly tipping mine has been difficult. I feel I've made progress. No, I'm not Dan 2.0 yet. Maybe I've upgraded to shitty Windows 95, and the upgrades I've made are hurting our relationship. I guess I just wish I could get some credit for my efforts, which obviously shows I'm still very concerned with her reaction towards me. And obviously, like you mentioned, she can sense it. It's a long post, but if you have any advice, I'd love to know how to increase my indifference. I would appreciate it. Again, you are a much better coach than Tim. So some of that is I added on, but I'll let you figure out which parts I did. So yeah, Tim. So one of the things I was talking to the guys yesterday to give you context on this is I was describing myself previously as Doug 1.0, right? And how, Doug 1.0, I would just laugh at him because he shows up sometimes, the old version of me. And so that's what Dan is referencing here with the Dan 1.0 versus Dan 2.0. Anything you want to dive into there?
Wow. There's a lot, right?
Yep.
It's kind of like 1.0 is deactivated, 2.0 is activated, isn't it?
Correct.
So in that, yeah, Deer versus Wolf could probably fall into that too. One of the first things that comes to mind for me is the podcast number 663, A Woman's Take, Why Neediness is Such a Turn Off.
Great one.
that was done with Nanette and with Mo, and some of the insights they shared were really surprising. It was great to hear from a woman as well. Um, so I would really, if I were you, go and listen to that. And obviously, you're in the movement, so if you want to reach out to either of those two women and have any questions, or the benefit of being able to do that as well, because you've got um, communication lines with them. Yeah, look, brother, the first thing I'm just gonna talk as I'm talking to you. The first thing that comes to my mind for you, brother, is the fact that you get clear on what you want. Just because you've been Dan or whatever the name is 1.0, it doesn't mean that you deserve to be treated in the way that you've been treated, right? I get that a lot of guys want to take responsibility for the role that they play in their wife having some kind of affair. At the same time, in my opinion, I personally, and this is just my personal opinion, for me, that is not an excuse or a reason that makes it okay to go and do that kind of thing. And for me, I just wouldn't be accepting that. But that's just my opinion and my approach. And I wouldn't be waiting for her to stop that relationship, especially if part of the reason why she can't be on her own rather is because she doesn't have the financial means to do so. I would not be in a relationship just because I provide some kind of financial stability to somebody. I'm just not going to do that. It's not how I operate. It's not the rules within which I would engage in a relationship. So it's a little bit different to the engage in difference bit. Honestly, it gets me fired up just knowing that you're in that position and you honestly are allowing yourself to be treated that way. It might sound harsh. I get that everybody is different. Um, but the reality is, if you're talking about engaging difference, one of the big ways you can go about that is not tolerating certain things. And it's not coming from a place of trying to be indifferent. It's coming from a place of genuinely not giving a shit because someone's crossed a line that you are not going to accept. And if they're going to choose to continue to cross it, then cool, that's their choice. There will be consequences, and you are not going to wait around for them for the day that they may or may not choose to stop doing that thing. It's just it's just crazy, right? As you kind of think about it in that perspective. Um because yeah, that is going to fuel some of your neediness. The reality is you are being needy right now. The fact that you are allowing her to behave in this way and you're asking for her to please stop, it makes me uncomfortable, and she isn't, and there is no consequence, and you're continuing to change, and you are waiting for her to give you a pat on the back and a nod of approval, these are all examples of you needing external validation from her. And that is the complete opposite of engaging difference. Engaging difference is a point you arrive at on the journey while you continue through the work on yourself, and you do the work on yourself for the right reason, which is I'm changing for me because I recognize that I want to be a better man for me. And if you've got kids, that might be so you can be a better father. To your partner, it might be so you can be a better husband, right? Doesn't mean you become a doormat. Doesn't mean you need someone's permission to change. Doesn't mean any of those things. And in the process of you realizing what it means to you for you to become a better man for you, and you start to listen to yourself and do things for yourself and speak up for yourself and act in alignment with how you see yourself, all these things begin to build your self image and the self esteem that you have, which in turn fuels your level of confidence and helps you to detach from needing other people's validation and approval. At that point, engage in difference is just it's not something you're trying to do. It's not a trick or a tool. It's just kind of who you are and how you operate, right? And you begin to recognize her mood is her mood and all the other things. It's good to, it's good to understand the psychology behind it, which we cover a lot in the hidden motives technique, as you know. But I really want to emphasize for you to continue doing the work for you and to continue leaning into what you want, not what you want based on if she is willing to go there with you, You get to take control of what you want for you and head in that direction without waiting around for whoever it may be. Gets me fired up. This really, ugh. I'm gonna swear. Then I can see you smiling at me. Just gets me fired up.
Well, yeah, I mean, and you and I have somebody that we're really close to within the movement that went through something very similar. And I think that's why it gets both of us very fired up is we see these guys and unfortunately oftentimes being taken advantage of, right? These are great men, quote,
Mm,
nice guys, but also great men who are getting taken advantage of by their woman, quite honestly. And unfortunately, Dan, when I'm just going to let you know the person that I think Tim and I are both thinking of as somebody we love dearly. His wife also told him it wasn't physical many, many, many times over and over again until he found out that it was. Just to be transparent. So that does happen. Believe it or not, people do lie. People do hide out of shame, guilt, or necessity their transgressions. So I'm not saying your wife is lying to you, by the way, but it does have all of the ingredients of an affair that are there. If she's refusing to stop seeing this guy, she's doing all the fun things with him. You're a man, right? You're a man, Dan. How often are you hanging out with women that are attractive? I'm going to assume your wife's attractive. Are you hanging out with attractive women that you're having a lot of fun with over and over and over again with no hope or desire to be sexual with them? It doesn't happen typically, right? Now, there's exceptions. We all have friends and things. If this man has a solid relationship, let's just say, or he's gay or whatever, there could be possibilities here. But odds are it probably has turned physical or it will. Now, with that said, Tim, you're spot on. And I'm going to add on a couple things that I'm seeing right away. One, again, I'm going to go back to the odds that probably is physical. It probably is. And you need to draw a hard line, a boundary, right? And just say, no, this is not acceptable. And if she refuses to stop seeing him, then you need to protect your house, so to speak, yourself. And if something's not acceptable, you need to stop it, right? Or cut the toxic relationship out. So Tim would never do this, but I'll use him as an example. Let's say theoretically, Tim starts lying to me. And that's, being in a relationship with someone who's lying to me is not acceptable to me. And so I call Tim out on it. I'm like, Tim, I caught you lying. That's not acceptable to me. That's a boundary for me. You can't do that. And then he continues to lie time and time again. Well, then I need to remove Tim from my life. Just, if he wants to come back later on, we can talk about it. But he needs to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that is not acceptable for Doug. That is, if you want to be in relation with me or relationship with me, you cannot be a liar. You just tell me the truth. We'll handle it. And it may not be something I want to hear, right? But we'll handle it together and we'll have a conversation about it. Maybe it's just a misunderstanding, but not a lie. A blatant lie is just not acceptable to me. And therefore, it's something that I will have to eventually cut that person out. So this is the same situation. So if my wife was spending time with another man and I felt it was causing a rift in our marriage, then I would be beholden to take the leadership position in that relationship. It's my job to be the leader. So I would sit my wife down and say, this is not acceptable. One is it's not good for me, right? It's not acceptable for me. Two, I don't think it's healthy for you, right? Because you want to be in this relationship with me. Three is I am the protector of the third entity, which is our relationship, right? So there's three entities. There's you, your partner, and the third entity of your marriage. And you guys are the protector of that. Now, more often than not, as Dan is alluding to here, being Windows 95 upgraded or Dan 1.0, is oftentimes, guys, we need to protect our marriage from us. And that's why we have to take massive action. At the end of all these podcasts, you'll hear me often say with the moment of insight, take massive action. And that's what I'm talking about, right? Sometimes we are the person that we need to protect ourselves from in our marriage. And that's by educating ourselves. That's by taking action. That's by getting the tools. It's like joining the activation method, going to an alpha reset. It's only a 4-day event that will change your life. 100% of men say that. And that's no hyperbole again, 100%. So those are the things that you want to look at here, Dan, but you do need to draw a line in the sand. Hey, look, this is what I would do if I was with you in your situation. And I'll talk about engaged indifference because I got a tip for you on that one too. But I would sit her down and say, babe, look, first and foremost, I love you. And I realize that you're hanging out with this other guy. I just want to let you know that that's not acceptable. For me as a man, as someone who loves you dearly, also for our marriage, the sanctity of our marriage. If you want to do this, I can't stop you. I don't want you to do it, but I can't stop you. But I have to protect me and I have to protect our marriage. So if you want to continue seeing this guy, then you have to move out. And I need a decision in the next 24 hours or less on what you want to do. And I wouldn't do it from a place of just ultimatum, but it's almost like I just said, I have a 6-year-old who is sick upstairs. And sometimes a 6-year-old just wants to do stuff a 6-year-old wants. Like he's going to want candy, ice cream. He's going to watch shows all day, right? If given the opportunity. However, as his father, I know best. And it's my job to protect and be firm, yet loving. I love the little guy, love him. But I'm also going to be firm about certain rules. No, you can't have an ice cream bar, right? Yeah, they're delicious. Your dad wants to eat them all too, but you can't have the ice cream bar. And I love you. So I would say the same thing to your wife. Look, you can't go see this guy and be with me. And I love you, but you can't do it. Those things are mutually exclusive. And when it comes to engaged indifference, right, it's obvious for most of us that if this was happening to us, we're going to be, it's hard to be indifferent, man. Let's just call it what it is. When we talk about engaged indifference, we're usually not talking about something that is blatant as a possible affair. Emotional affair, she's definitely having. Physical affair, I'm not a betting man unless I know I'm going to win, but I'm edging on the line that this is probably physical. But I don't know that. But definitely emotional, right? She's having an emotional response. This is an emotional affair. So by all definitions. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to realize that I'm not going to be indifferent. I'm going to be emotional. I am a human. I am a man. It's okay. One trick that I teach some of our clients, Tim, is when engaged indifference is very difficult for them, especially when they're collecting the berries, right? We talk about collecting berries a lot here at TPM. When they're collecting the berries, sometimes what I say is, hey, listen to your woman as if she was a good friend's wife, not your wife, a good friend's wife. That can remove the personal sting from it, right? So, as an example, Dan's got a buddy, let's just say, or let's just say Dan's talking to my wife. They're just having coffee, talking, nothing going on, just having a conversation. Nothing to like what Dan is describing his wife's doing, but they're having a conversation. Now, if my wife starts talking about me and the dumb stuff that Doug does, right? And I do dumb stuff. I'm a man. And the stuff that I do, Dan is not going to be triggered by it. He's just going to listen and he's going to be somewhat empathetic, like, because he's not going to know my side of the street, right? He's just going to hear her side and just listen, not providing advice, not critiquing, just listening. And that's the level of engaged indifference you get to do. And sometimes you have to pretend that your wife isn't a woman you know as well, right? And you are not the person she's talking about. And that for some guys allows them to get into the zone or the feeling of what engaged indifference is like. And once you feel what it's like, it's easier then to slip into a normal routine, Tim.
I love that. It's a good little tip. And yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Very difficult to be indifferent in this situation, right? You're just not gonna it is not gonna be indifferent
No
in
way.
such a charged situation. I don't think you want to you want to come from a place of strength and not weakness. Weakness is the neediness, waiting for permission, waiting for her to decide, waiting for her approval, waiting for her to tell you you're doing the right thing, waiting for her to give you a pat on the back. All those things, you're in a dangerous place if that's how you're going to be, because where does that end? You're forever going to be waiting on something that, one, may or may not come, and two, you're then putting your sense of worth on what she says. It's just, you wouldn't do that in any scenario, never mind with your wife.
I've been in a situation like this with my wife a long time ago, maybe 10 years ago, maybe or so. She was chatting with a guy online, right? And I found out about it. And I just confronted her and said, hey, look, this isn't acceptable. And if you want to be with me, if you want to be with me, then you end this now. You actually get on a call right here, right now in front of me. And you say, hey, look, I can't talk to other guys. I'm married, period. End of story. If you don't, then you're gone and we're separating. And that's okay too, right? I'll be amicable. I'm not going to be a jerk about it, but this is not acceptable in relationship with me. And right then and there, my wife picked up the phone, made a phone call, and said, hey, look, I'm not talking to you anymore. I value my husband and my relationship far more than just having a chat. And I was there. I heard everything. I heard the guy's response, and and the guy was like, "Okay, you know." So it wasn't as convoluted as what Dan's going through, but even then, to give you a point, Dan, I just put a hard line. Said, "This is not acceptable to me. If you want to be my
Mm,
wife, my woman, then you don't do this. You just don't do it." Bottom line. And I made her make that decision right then and there. I didn't give her 24 hours, didn't give her a deciding period. I just made her I remember exactly where I was, exactly what I was doing. You call right now. You contact this person, you call, I want to hear it, and you end it and never ever talk to that person again or anybody else online like this ever. If it's a friend that you've had before our marriage, cool. We can talk about it. But no, and it wasn't out of a place of jealousy for me or anything else, but these were clearly defined boundaries that her and I set before we got married, right? We both were in the fitness industry, so it's a very sexual industry. You're talking to a lot of people, a lot of good-looking people all the time, and Tim, you know you were in this industry as well. So you just know going into it what things could escalate to at some time. But at that time, my wife and I were talking about protecting the third entity. And what I saw was her not protecting it. So I came in and said, no, this will not work for me. And guys that have met me and know me, I can be pretty black and white at times like that. Not all the time, but sometimes. And when I am, I don't budge. It's just boom, this is it. And it's one way or the other. And there's no two ways about it. Tim's laughing over there because he's seen me do this a couple times, maybe once or twice. But in this situation, Dan, I just drew a hard line. And I was fully prepared not to move out myself, Dan. I would not move out myself. I would have helped her move her stuff out that very day. It would have taken me about an hour, I'm guessing, because I would have been enraged. I would not have been indifferent. And I was very calm and very deliberate in what I said. So there was no misunderstanding from her the seriousness of my boundary. So if it ever to be crossed again, you're gone. 10 years passed, more than 10 years, I guess, at this point. It's never happened, not even close. She got the fact that I was protecting the third entity. Now, if she wants to be part of that third entity, then there's rules to follow. There's rules. If you want to be part of it, just like if you want to be in relation with me, you can't be lying to me. You can tell me difficult things. You can tell me you don't like me. You can tell me that I'm stubborn. You can tell me that I'm too aggressive or not aggressive enough or whatever. You and I can deal with that if there's honesty there. But you don't lie to me. And so, Dan, this is where you get to draw a hard line in the sand. Engaged indifference is tough for a lot of guys, especially when you're triggered. I would encourage you to first and foremost set a firm boundary. You can choose to do it the way I did, draw a hard line in the sand, right? And just then and there, she has to make that decision. You can give her a short time period. What I'm concerned with, Dan, is Tim and I have somebody that we know we're very close to, someone who's been involved in the movement, been in the brotherhood, great man. I mean, friggin' salt of the earth, great guy. He drew a boundary. His wife crossed it. He drew another boundary. His wife crossed it. Drew another boundary. His wife crossed it. And, he was doing the best he can. So I'm not putting him down in any way, shape, or form. I did not walk in his shoes. And he ended up finding out that it was a physical affair. And he drew another boundary and his wife crossed it. And Tim and I had to watch this poor guy suffer through this. And I don't want that for you, man. I don't, you saw me on the call, you even commented. I care. I really, really care about the men we work with. I care about the guys listening to this. I deeply, deeply care about the work we do. And I want you to have it all. And I do not want you to take advantage of. That's why Tim was so pissed. You see how well Tim is enunciating his words. That's how you can tell when Tim's pissed. He slows down his talk and enunciates very effectively. That's the Tim you don't want to meet in a dark alley. And he's pissed because he wants the best for you and doesn't want you to be taken advantage of. Draw that boundary, choose the timeline. But once you draw that boundary, brother, do not let anybody cross it. And if they cross it, there's consequences. And if you don't enforce those consequences, she's going to trust you less, she's going to respect you less, and she's going to walk over you more. And that is exactly what you do not want. So being the lighthouse or being the wolf, which is wise, open, loving, and fierce. The wolf is wise, he's open, he's loving, but he's also fierce. And he fiercely protects himself, his family, the third entity of his marriage, if he's still married, and all the people he cares about. And that includes himself. That includes himself.
I'm gonna reach out to this guy. I want to ask him the time to listen to this podcast, and I'm going to ask him what he's going to do.
Yeah. I'm going to drop him a raw video from this. That's my anticipation plan, but I'll do it in a chat with all of us, or I'll drop it in the general channel so all the men can see it. So for those that aren't in our general channel, we have a community of men alumni, guys currently in the activation method, Alpha Reset, the Brotherhood Inner Circle, one-on-one, all the programs that we offer as we continue to expand and help more and more men around the world. I think there's quite a bit of men in there, over 1,000 men. I don't even know the exact number, Tim, but I'll do it. I'll tag him in there. It's a very open forum, very loving place for men to share. So Tim, that way you can continue the conversation with as well.
Fantastic.
Gentlemen, if you find yourself in a similar situation as Dan, now it doesn't have to be an emotional affair. It doesn't have to be a physical affair. But when your boundaries are being crossed, when you are being violated or disrespected, it's time to set those boundaries and set them firm. Now, when you set those boundaries, you can't let anybody cross them, and without consequences. If they cross them, they get consequences. Just like my son was watching a little show. If I walked over into that room after this podcast and he's eating an ice cream bar, there are going to be consequences. You can be assured of that. And that's why he's not eating an ice cream bar. That's why I have so much confidence that he's sitting on the couch. He's got an electrolyte drink and he's watching cartoons as he was allowed to do. And he's got healthy snacks. And he's not going to do it because he knows violating dad's rules have consequences. And he doesn't want to do that. As a little guy, he tried it, right? He tested his boundaries, as all kids and all women are going to do. All people are going to do that. But when your boundaries are firm, people are going to respect them. But you got to hold firm boundaries. And sometimes you got to hold firm boundaries for yourself and protect yourself and protect your relationship from yourself. So guys, if you haven't jumped on a call with one of our advisors to see if the activation method is the right place for you, I'm going to encourage you to do so. If you're a married businessman, then what you want to do is go over to thepowerfulman.com. There's a button there. Just hit contact or apply. It'll give you the opportunity to fill out a short application, right? And that'll get you on a call with one of our advisors. They're guaranteed to give you an insight into your personal life that'll help you regardless, but they'll also let you know if it's the right fit. Maybe it's not the right time for you, or if there's another program or something else that they recommend that you do instead, depending on your situation, because they know our program, they know who we can help. And that's why we have such a high continuation rate and such a high success rate, is because we know the guys we serve, we know how to do it effectively. It is a methodology, right? Step-by-step methodology. It's what Dan was alluding to. That's why he's upgrading his software. He's new in the program and he's upgrading. I love that about you, Dan. I love that you're jumping 2 feet in and really going after it, brother. I'm excited to watch your journey. And for those of you that have not begun your journey with us, I encourage you to go over. Again, that's thepowerfulman.com, thepowerfulman.com. Just get on a phone call, guys. Get on a short 15, 20-minute phone call and just find out. Take action. Set a boundary for yourself. You deserve it. You deserve everything in this life. Average is not for you. Tim, always thank you for your insights, my friend. I know you're worked up. You're probably going to be going and doing some push-ups here pretty soon to get this out. Dan, just know that we got your back. We're in your corner, my friend. And I speak on behalf of myself, of course, Tim, the other coaches, and all the men in the movement. And gentlemen, as we always say in the moment of insight, take massive action. And we'll see you next time on the Powerful Man Show. All right, guys, that's a wrap for this episode. But as I always say, in the moment of insight, take massive action. You see, there are 2 types of men that listen to a podcast like this. Those that go on from one podcast or show to another, just hoping things are going to change and realizing that they're going to be in the same place month after month, year after year. You see, I was this guy, so I completely get it. You may just not be ready. But there's also a second man that listens to a show just like this. And this is a guy who takes massive action so they can shorten the learning curve, compress time, and get results to be the wolf. See, wolf is an acronym for wise, open, loving, and fierce. Now, ask yourself, which one am I? And just be honest with yourself there. And there's no judgment on my end, but if you're ready to move from deactivated deer mode, which is defend, excuse, explain, react, to activated wolf, wise, open, loving, and fierce, then go over to thepowerfulman.com/grow and go there now. In fact, I'll make it super easy for you. I will even put the link right in the description here so you can just click it and go over there now to learn more. Guys, in the moment of insight, take massive action. Go from deactivated to activated because like I said, life is too short for average. And I'll see you on the next episode.